Oh, DJ Nation, Kenny Kim here, bringing you another Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast this week for the BMW Championship. As usual, I am here with everybody's favorite Canadian, Tyler Tamboline. Tyler, what is up, my friend?
What's going on, Kenny? We're back. Second last event of the season. We're into the playoffs now, so the second playoff event. One more coming up next week, the Tour Championship. Lucas Glover going full Billy Ho on us, man. He's kicking things off, winning, and we'll see what he does. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Before we get into it, I want to remind everyone very quickly, this show is brought to you and presented by PrizePicks.com. If you haven't yet done so, head on over to PrizePicks.com. Use promo code MMN. Get yourself a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. NFL just around the corner, so lots of action to get in over on PrizePicks.com. Kenny, there was a term that came up this past week, bedwetters. Kind of like that one. Downside of me on Twitter said it. And man, Lucas Glover, well, he didn't wet the bed and went on to win in the playoff. Those pants looked like a bedwetter out there. I mean, this guy was just sweating his ass off literally, but got the job done. Cantlay into the water, man, right out of the gate. Just didn't make, anything exciting at the end. And Glover, some of those putts down the stretch, man, just incredible. So back-to-back wins for Lucas G.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive shit. Like, okay, the win the week before was a win, shitty field. He's had, a 4 top sixes, shitty fields. The win this past week was definitely not a shitty field. Probably one of the best fields we would see this year, except for the fact that it was, only 70 golfers. And the crazy thing is on Sunday, he basically had the entire Ryder Cup contingent chasing his ass down. Like, every player that was behind him, couple strokes back, already basically locks for the Ryder Cup. And he was able to hold all them off. Incredibly impressive stuff from this guy, 42-year-old guy. So his first one was like in 2005, right? I mean, the guy's been around forever. And he's been through a lot of ups early in his career, winning a major, and then downs. Didn't win for years, won like 3 years ago finally, didn't win for 3 years, goes back to back. The guy was putting like Ben fucking Crenshaw out there. Like, just making every fucking distance putt, like on that back nine. Here's the thing. We talked about this last week. Not that excited about the playoffs. But that Sunday was fun TV. It was a really good watch. I think the best part was the weather delay caused like the coverage to go long on CBS, and I don't know how the commercial stuff works on the TV, but it looked like the back nine, there were hardly any commercials at all. Like, it was great. And they were showing all these shots. It was wonderful. Really exciting to watch. And I didn't even have any skin in the game. The closest guy I had, I needed Sungjae, I had an each web. So I hit that, and of course, but it was chopped in half because of all the people that tied. And of course, he missed a 2.5-foot birdie on 16, which would have put him in 5th place by himself. And I wouldn't have been chopped, and I wouldn't have gotten the full place money on that. But still, I really didn't have anyone that was really, in the running to win it. And it was great TV. It was great golf. I enjoyed it thoroughly. It was wonderful seeing Lucas do his thing. What did you think about the event?
I'm going to stick by my original take. I actually did not find it that exciting. Again, maybe it's just the thing, but good for Lucas. Cantlay getting into the mix. I think why people liked it probably is because there was a lot of Fleetwood ticket holders out there, and we really thought it was going to be Fleetwood's time.
I thought it was his time.
Job done, but even beyond that, like most of the other stuff happened earlier in the day, like Connors, Spieth, those guys sort of making their move. Homa late, obviously had that eagle, but he made those bogeys, double bogeys down the stretch. Like, it was not thrilling to me. I love that course though. I really do. I love the finishing hole. I love that course. Still enjoyable. Just wasn't like crazy, and we didn't get exactly what we wanted down the stretch. Like Rory, that T3 doesn't really reflect that he literally just missed by a stroke off of everything. It just didn't feel that way. Again, same thing, but good for Lucas. I still don't think he's on the Ryder Cup team. And man, I know what you're going to say. Well, what if he does this week? Sure.
No. If the pick was today, you don't think he'd make the team?
No.
Why?
He's almost like he's in the mix with so many. He's like, what is he, like 16th or 17th? That moved him up the board. They have too many guys to pick from, man. They're not just going to go, oh, Lucas Glover won last week and this week we have to put him on the team now.
It's not just that, but it's 5 top sixes in his last 6 events. Yeah, so it's not like it's like a 1 or 2 week thing. The guy's been playing like this for 2 months.
Yeah, I think he needs to do more. I think he needs to do it again this week, and maybe he will. 50-man
I
field.
think if it ended, if they picked today, he's on the team. He would take out JT. He would take out Fino. Here's my team. Well, you talk about why more about why you don't think he's on the team. While I bring up my team up, who I think is going to make it. Give me one second.
I don't think they classify like how you're classifying it. And if I go back to it, because I'll have it here with me somewhere, I don't think they go, oh, the win, like the win-win is definitely the biggest factor. Then the 4th, 6th, and 5th before the missed cut. I don't think anybody gives a shit about that. Lots of people have that on their resume throughout the season, and it's fine. And again, picking different times, who's hot now versus who's not. I just don't know if the 42-year-old gets put on the team at the last second when they're because of these 2 wins. I just don't know. I think he has to do it again. I think he has to do it.
But I mean, it would have happened with Billy Horschel. It happened with Ryan Moore. I mean, they usually take a hot guy at the end.
If it's not Lucas Glover, I think it, again, I'm saying he's playing amazing. I'm saying I just don't think, as an outsider looking in, I don't think they put Lucas on the team. I just don't think he gets the pick.
Now, I don't think, there's still 2 weeks left, so I don't think it's guaranteed. I think if he shits the bed the next 2 weeks, he's not going to make the team. But I think if they picked right now, I think I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be on the team. And
so what if this week he goes like 5th?
No, I don't care about this week. I don't give a fuck about this week. I said if we picked right now, I think he's on the team.
Okay,
but
I definitely don't.
We're not picking right now.
I would bet heavily against that one. And I want to ask you now to ask a different question. If he goes 15th, 15th, these next 2 weeks, what happens?
If he's finished 15th on the PGA, on the Tour Championship, after being in the top 5, probably going in there, then yeah, no, he's out. Okay. He's got to finish top 5 in the Tour Championship.
Yeah.
If he finishes top 5 in the Tour Championship or wins this week, he's in. Definitely,
this week, that's
no
just
doubt.
nuts. If this guy wins 3 in a row, that's yeah. Go ahead.
There's no doubt. But I think he's still. I don't think he. I think there's still an easy way for him to play himself out.
So who are we chatting about then? Because this is good conversation for like a week that we don't have much going on. It's a 50-man field. We're going to get to all that, but let's do some more Ryder Cup conversation for 2 seconds here. Who do you have? I know we're doing it as of today and you have Glover on it. So start there, but I'm saying like, who do you have off? Like who are like 3 of the guys that you have off?
So JT, Burns, Finau, Denny, Keegan, Bryson. Those are the guys that are going to be fighting for that final spot. The 11 that I got in are Scheffler, Wyndham Clark, Harman, Koepka, Xander, Cantlay, Homa, Cam Young, only because Freddie Couples already said he's on the team. To backtrack on that would be horrible for the captain and the player. I don't think they can backtrack on that. It's already been made public. So no matter what he does, it's going to be extremely difficult for Zach Johnson to not put him on the team. And it's sort of funny. Did Zach tell Freddie to say this? I mean, it really puts ZJ in a bind if he did not tell him to say that. Because as of now, I have Cam Young in there just because of what Freddie Couples said. And then Jordan Spieth, Morikawa, and then Fowler. I have Ricky in because of the way he's played for almost the whole entire year. The game has been exceptional. He's been one of the top 10 Americans for this year. Now, the Ryder Cup takes 2 years into account. And so his last year, in 2022, sucked ass. So he didn't get that many points. He got all of his points this year, and I think he's like 14th, 15th. And to get up that high, it's pretty solid work in a year of good golf. And so the guys that are out, Glover, Finau, JT, Burns, Keegan, Bryson. So, and I have Glover in the last spot. Of those 6, who do you put in front of Glover?
Yeah, though I guess that's where the challenge came. Was you said I would still bet against it today just because I think they would take somebody else. But I think
who of the 6 would you take over him?
Probably Finau.
I thought Finau was going to make the team too.
Yeah,
until and that's he's been playing like straight garbage.
Yeah,
real quick, 6 weeks.
Yeah, for sure. My take is that's what puts again. You're talking today, and so am I right now. So I get it, but I'm saying like what puts Glover on thin ice is the outsiders have like if what Finau, who by the way back here in 20 came 5th, and who I think sets up pretty well this week. If he decides to show up this week, I think that's more than enough. And even though those 2 wins, it kind of just bumps him. And like, I just think he's on thin ice. And I didn't like fully put the,
he's definitely on thin ice.
I still just think today it's like, again, it just happened like too quick for them to last minute go, okay, he's the hottest in the world right now. Let's put him on the team. I just don't know if they would.
But they changed the rules of getting into the Ryder Cup because exactly of this situation.
Yeah.
Like the Billy Ho situation in 2014, right? I mean, this is like the exact reason they changed these rules. So they can get the hot guy in the last spot, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, and now again, like you said, this is all if it ends today. And I think I think the only people, unless Keegan or Finau does something in the next 2 weeks, if it ended today and you had to pick, I think it's between JT and Glover. And I know people don't think JT should make team. I don't think JT should make the team. I don't think Cam Young should make the team. But Cam Young already in by Freddie. JT, just a legacy call. I mean, if you look back on Poulter, who, has been a captain's pick almost every single time. Like he rarely ever qualifies for the team. But they always pick his ass because the Americans hate him and he plays a certain way at the Ryder Cup, which is leaps and bounds better than he plays in a regular tour normally. Now JT, I could see him being that annoying American Poulter. That's sort of who he is.
Yeah.
Like he's pretty fucking annoying to play against if you're a European golfer, right? I mean, like he has sort of like that trigger mechanism where you can get people pissed off at him. Showing emotion, doing anything. That's why, I like him on the team.
When he drops that putter down, says, really? You're not going to give me that? It just gets in your head.
He does some shit. He does some shit to fucking egg the Europeans on, and like I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that's a really good thing to have on your team. Now the way he's playing like garbage, right? He's not even playing in the FedEx Cup playoffs. He's not even trying to go to Europe and play in these events. They already did the couple of things, and I guess these events start next week, or there might be a Euro event this week. I don't know. But he's not in it this week. Yeah. But he's not in it. This would be the one he needs to be in. But does
he know that he's already on the team?
That's what I'm thinking, right? I mean, don't you think like his love of the Ryder Cup, it's like one of his favorite events. You could see it, like the way he plays and the emotion and playing for your country. You see that when he's out there.
Yeah.
And to not try and do something to give him an edge, to try and overtake Lucas Glover, he's just going to chillax for 7 weeks before. That leads me to believe one of two things. Either CJ said, you're not in, and you can't be in, or you're already in, right? I mean, those are the two ways. I know that it's pretty self-explanatory.
People don't like that call, though. I said it last week, and I know we're talking Finau, Glover, Young, and you're talking the Young reason because of the couples thing, but at the same time, you think ZJ doesn't call up Tiger and go like, man, this is a tough dilemma, bro. Like, what do you think I should do here?
And you don't think Tiger's going to be like, pick my boy?
I just value your opinion. Like, I just want to know what you think. And I definitely think this is true. Like, it's just a buddy checking, calling up with another buddy that he trusts and knows is the king of the game, the king shit of the game of golf. He's like, I need to get your opinion. And it's easy to lean on. He knows he's going to get backlash if he picks JT. But guess what? JT has an incredible Ryder Cup history to lean on. He's pesky. JT has played bad in his results, but like we said, there's been blow up holes. The 9-ball or the 10-ball, whatever was that, like things like that don't kill you in a Ryder Cup format. And then guess what? The guy still has 15 wins, 2 majors. He's still young. He has such camaraderie with the guys in that locker room and pairings that they can put him with. I don't think ZJ is going to feel bad if he does it and take too much real backlash. And like you said, when he calls up Tiger for advice, Tiger's going to say, dude, take my guy. Like, this guy's He's coming out with fire in his belly. He's coming out at Ryder Cup is not the same. He's going to battle for you. You're going to be thankful you picked him. And ZJ's going to be like, well, I think that's a good idea. I'm going to do that versus this. But I don't know. I don't know. It's tough. It's the craziest I can remember it, to be honest, for these picks and this everything. Nuts.
I don't think JT should make the team, but I think he will.
Right. Yeah.
And I think as long as Glover, Finau, Burns, and Keegan don't do much these next 2 weeks, especially the last 3. Glover's going to be a tough one, but the last 3, Finau, Keegan, and Burns, if they don't do nothing, and it's just between JT and Glover doesn't finish top 5 in the Tour Championship, I could see a path for JT making this team.
And those calls,
whether that's the right call,
Yeah,
What?
like I meant like real phone calls for ZJ to call up his boys or whoever they are, these guys in this case, and say, unfortunately, you didn't make the team. Like for though, if they don't come through in these spots, it's like too little, too late. Great run and amazing work, but here's this. Like all these ones are not hard phone calls. I'm saying they're all going to be hard. They'll say they're hard, but I'm saying like I don't think to let Sam Burns know or Keegan Bradley or any of those guys or Cam Young, if Cam Young isn't the shoe-in, the Freddie Couple set, like to call those guys up, it's really to me not that hard of a phone call. I'm not the guy calling. I mean, in the sense of like, it's not like they've done crazy shit besides maybe Glover for the other guys to just write them off and say, dude, you crushed at the start of the season or you had yourself a great year. I'm really pumped for you. Unfortunately, this task is hard at hand this year and it's really tough. It just was an unfortunate cut that I had to make. Boom. Like nothing you can do. It sucks, but I just don't feel like it's that close on those guys. The Glover one, a big one, and he has 2 weeks to lock it down.
Yeah.
The JT thing.
And again, I don't think JT
should be on the team.
Should make the team, but I've been going a little more back and forth, just thinking about this a little bit more. But I think if it ended now, Glover should make the team. If Glover doesn't finish top 5 and those other cats that I talked about don't do well, I think JT's on.
All right. Let's get some clarity this week, and we'll reconvene next week just to see. We'll find out.
Yeah. So let's move on. Let's go to our Listener League winner from last week. It was our final Listener League, and we'll have more chats about certain stuff because there's a player I do want to talk about here before we get out of here. But we'll do that when we get to the tiers. So the winner of last week, oh man, I just had it up. Give me 1 second. The winner is C Mons. C_Mons. And I guess it might be his face in the avatar. I do not know.
It's him or Bradley Cooper. Who knows?
I can't see. It's too
I
small
can't tell who it is
on my phone. It does. If it's Bradley Cooper or it's him, he has a big rash on his forehead or something. I don't know what's going on with that. Anyways, great lineup by Simons. Before we get to his lineup, let's talk about our lineups because we had a pretty strong 1-2 finish. Not 1-2 finish, but pretty strong finishes this week for the hosts of the Fantasy Golf Generators. I know Tambo finished what, 13th?
14th and 21st for each 14th, of us.
I finished 21st. So the top 25, 2 top 25s for the hosts. So pretty solid.
It's only relevant because those are shit results, but not really when you consider the 2 of us in a 1,000-man tournament. I think it's the best combination finish. Like I came 6th a few weeks ago. You've won it before. I'm saying that of us both having a really good week and being up there, that's how hard this tournament is. It's really challenging. It's like feels like winning a major. That's what it feels like.
I know, right? It's tough.
It's really tough to win the Fantasy Golf Degenerate Listeners
League. I've probably played like over 200 of these, and I've won once.
I've got my best ever is that 6th place. So that just tells you how tough it is to get up to the top.
And of course, the variance because you are like one of the best GPP players out there, and I basically suck balls, and I've won this motherfucker before. So there you go. That shows you the variance in this fucking game. It's wild. All right. So Simons. Are we doing a Listener League this week, Tambo? Let's tell them.
No, so real quick note on that, and then we'll go to his lineup quick, is the Listener League, like we said last week, is done. Found out a little bit more clarity on it. So what it'll be is we'll get it back for the swing season. We'll run it straight through until the real TOC, and then we'll have our TOC the week after at the Sony Open. We'll run our Tournament of Champions. That'll give us time at the Tournament of Champions to let you guys know and get in there to talk about the prizes and the cash and the tickets and things like that will be available. Swag, gear, whatever else we've got. We're going to put as many things in it. It'll be our best prizes ever. I guarantee that. So that will be the case. And that gives a few more people the chance to get in after CMONs for the 8 events in the swing season. The Tournament of Champions will be the final to close off our Tournament of Champions. And then we'll have it at the Sony Open.
So CMON started with the Southern California boys. Yeah. Xander Schauffele finished 24th, 14% owned. Patrick Cantlay, 14% owned. Of course, finished runner up. Sung Jae, he was 11% owned. He finished in 6th place. Still got me to E-Trade, but it was chopped, still bitter. Russell Henley, he finished in 6th place as well. He was 11% owned. Cam Davis, one of my more favorite players last week, 11% owned. He finished in 6th place. And also Justin Rose, who, I don't know, dude went ham. I think at one point he was like 6 over.
Round 1, he got a 76 and then battled back.
and battled back 7.5% owned. He finished top 20. Great lineup. What'd you think, Tambo?
Yeah, I loved it. The Justin Rose thing and no cut even feels even better because for people just to follow this quickly, when a no cut, obviously you get a chance. You're getting 3 more rounds. So even if the Justin Rose one, when he sucks on day one, and you think you're dead, you're at least getting 3 more rounds. But it happens all the time, even in main slate stuff where it's sort of like a regular week where there is a cut and all that. But again, remember when somebody shoots a 76 on day one, if they battle back, there's all those points that come with the battle back. And that's like the guy goes and shoots a 61 on Saturday. I believe it was bogey free, had a streak, like just had everything with it. So the point is, yes, it's a no cut. So you can say it's easier for something like that to happen because he wasn't guaranteed it. If not, who knows? But it's 4 rounds. Very rarely does someone have 4 amazing rounds. Like Cantlay this week was an example of that. He went 68, 67, 66, 64. I believe Justin Ray had posted. It would have been the first time at least all season, if not maybe something a crazier stat, that anyone had shot better every round and then went on to win, which seems like the norm, but it's not actually true. A lot of times guys post a 62 on Friday that catapults them into the contention and they hang on Saturday and close on Sunday. It's just not normal that a guy gets better every round and posts a 64 in the final round and could have won, but he did not. But overall, like the lineup, balanced, right? Which is surprising because a lot of options for stars and scrubs last week. We're going to talk about that again this week. And the reason it's a little bit surprising is because even with all the scoring that was out there last week, Kenny, you would have thought that you would have saw more of those guys. And with Rory McIlroy doing something as one of the higher priced guys and being in the mix, you would have thought you saw it, but it just really came down to like there wasn't necessarily a lot of guys at the bottom that scored enough or outscored their finishing position. And you ended up having all these guys finish T6 that were 8,000, 7,800, 7,200, like Davis, Henley, Im in his lineup alone. And then, of course, if you go to the guy in second who actually had Glover at almost 10% ownership, so people were on it, 7,400 and wins. I didn't see if there was any more there to look at it, but just in general, Connors, 7,600, all these guys, and then Fleetwood, Cantlay, X, some of those guys being in the mix or scoring well. So yeah, balanced ended up getting the job done last week, even when stars and scrubs seemed like it would be more prevalent with all those options at the bottom.
All right, so we'll see Simons in the 3-man, our final 3-man of this season. So make sure you go in and click the invite because some guys lately haven't been doing that. It's just been me versus Tambo, and Tambo usually wins.
Except you got me last week, though. You got me last week.
Except I beat him last week. All right. So let's get to this week. I love this course. This is going to be a fun fucking week.
This one is. I'll give you that. I love this course, too. So
this course is money, dude.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and talk about this. The FedEx Cup playoffs, they roll into the second week as golfers travel just outside of Chicago for the BMW Championship from Olympia Fields Country Club. Golfers will try and make the top 30 after this week to advance to the Tour Championship. Some golfers currently on the outside looking in, Thigala, 31st, Rose, 32nd, Fitz, 40th, Cam Young, 46th, Decky, 47th. Now, Olympia Fields has hosted the 2015 U.S. Amateur and also has hosted numerous college events in the last decade plus. Bryson won the U.S. Am that year with Rahm finishing in 5th, Straka and Denny both in the field finishing in 17th. Matt Wolff won the Illini Invitational here in 2018 with Morikawa finishing in 2nd, Hovland finishing in 6th. Harris English has won a college event here in the last 15 years. Now, the last time that the PGA Tour played here was at the 2020 BMW Championship, where Rahm beat DJ in a playoff after both finished at -4. Okay. The course played exceptionally difficult with 5 to 7 inch rough and firm conditions the first couple of days. The conditions were so difficult that they watered the greens heavily on the weekend. Now, one glaring thing you saw with the leaderboard that year was the fact that the top 6 golfers in the field are on the leaderboard, all finished inside the top 15 in driving distance. Now, the driving accuracy percentage that year, 48%. The greens and regulation percentage that year, 58%. So everybody was missing fairways. Everybody was missing greens. So take that into account when you're looking at golfers this week. Now, the thing is, you throw in you throw in Bryson winning here. You throw in Matt Wolff winning, at this event, in a college event here. Seems like Bombers are going to be the way to go. But I will say, Harmon, Brian Harmon, Brendan Todd, Mac Hughes, all finished top 12 here in 2020. And then the last time it was played here, a major was played here, was 2003. And the godfather of plotting, at least the last 30 years, Jim Furyk, won this event. So there is hope for those guys with a little short stick off the tee. Now, the organizers of the BMW Championship tend to let the courses have very scoreable conditions. Like, as we've seen, like in the last decade plus, we've seen like minus 20, minus 27, like crazy low scoring happen. And some of them have happened on courses that have hosted majors, like Marion, Crooked Stick, Aronimink. All of those were like minus 20 plus winners, right? So I remember this vividly because, the course description, sort of my shit, right? And so I remember going into this event, and I was like, they're going to make it easy. You're going to see like 15 to 20 on there. They're not going to give us the real Olympia Fields. Well, for some reason, they were like, fuck it. Let's make this the most difficult tournament they're going to play the whole year. I don't know why the organizers at the BMW Championship did that in 2020, but I haven't heard anything that's going to tell me they're going to do anything different. So expect carnage. Expect, high scores. Expect not many birdies. Expect that you need placement points. That's what you're going to have to go with in this type of event. Now, Olympia Fields, 7,370 yard, par 70, 4 par 3s, 2 par 5s. The first hole, a mammoth, par 5. They can stretch out over 630 yards. And the par 5 15th, around 570, but they have like multiple tees. They can play over 600 yards as well. Two of the par 3s are on the shorter side, between 160 and 185, and the other two are well over 200 yards, with the par 3 8th hole stretching out over 280 yards, almost a 300-yard par 3. Now, 7 of the par 4s are between 450 and 500 yards, and 2 are under 400 yards. The 2 short par 4s are back-to-back holes on 11 and 12, which is then preceded by the easiest hole on the course. Like, if there's going to be a chance for a birdie streak, it's going to be 11, 12, 13. Now, golfers need to get a lot of scoring done on these 3 holes and 2 par 5s to stay near the top of the leaderboard. Now, off the tee, golfers are going to see average to narrow tree-lined fairways with bunkers in play in the landing zones. Now, the bunkers are predominantly large, but if a golfer misses near the front lip of these bunkers, a layup situation may be the only possible outcome. The rough will be, if it's like last time, it's going to be around 5 to 7 inches tall. We don't know if that's going to change this year. This is basically what I'm going on from the 2020. We'll have to see as the week goes on if that's going to be the similar course setup. But from 2020, we're looking at around 5 to 7 inches tall of rough, and golfers are going to have to miss the fairway by about 8 to 12 yards to hit it into the trees. Now, looking at videos here, there doesn't seem to be too many like low-hanging branches on these trees, so golfers should be able to punch out fairly easy with a low trajectory shot. Now, the issue is that these greens have very narrow openings in front for the ball to roll up, and most greens are securely guarded by large, deep front side bunkers. Now, I do expect driver to be pulled out a bunch this week by most golfers. The course is pretty straightforward off the tee, with only subtle dog legs on some holes, pretty freaking straight. On approach shots, golfers are going to see small, elevated, bentgrass POA blended greens that slope heavily from back to front. Now, hitting it over the greens this week will make it for a very difficult up and down to a normally elevated green that slopes away from the golfers. So I expect a lot of approaches to come up 15 to 25 feet short on back pin locations. On front pin locations, golfers are going to have to deal with a fall-off area on most holes and plenty of large bunkers that guard the front of the greens. Now, outside of the fall-off area, most greens are surrounded by the same 5 to 7 inch rough the golfers will see off the fairways. The greens have plenty of slope and contour and should play quick, 12.5 on the stem. I expect the conditions to be tough regardless of the weather, though there could be 20-mile-per-hour gusts on Thursday, which can make round 1 a fucking shit show, and I can't wait. Tambo, what are you looking for in golfers this week?
I'm doing everything while you're talking about that, and it's funny you said that piece at the end because I was pulling a little Justin Ray on my own over here trying to look stuff up. But that year, I'm not sure what the weather was like in 20, but First of all, we talked about that stat with Cantlay, and it was this season, the first to improve their round every day. If he had a one, he would have been the first golfer this season to improve his round day over day and go on to win. Interestingly enough, go back to 2020 here, Jon Rahm, 75 on day one. Meanwhile, guys like Decky throwing up 67s, Mackenzie Hughes, 69. But anyway, 75, 71, 66, 64 gets the job done. And crazy.
Well, I told you in the course preview what they did. They watered the greens heavily on the weekends.
So that's true, but I'm saying, like, still, it's just funny when you go back, because what I was going to add is Neiman, same thing, 72, 71, 68, 67. Kokrak, 74, 71, 69, 66. Just crazy how many guys went that low on Sunday. There was even one more. I forget who it was. Somebody else did it as well. It was Casey, 73, 72, 71, 68. So either way, we'll see what it plays like this year. But for me, just going on back to it, I always stick to tee to green on these hard courses. I talked about it last week. It worked out okay. Just approach in general, bogey avoidance in general. What do you think the score is going to be like, though? How do you think it's going to play this year when it comes to that? Like, what do you see? Because I think that year there was 5 guys under par.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect the same. I mean, these guys they've seen it now once, so maybe they play a little bit better. 6 to 8 under tops, maybe.
So with that said, that was the second piece I was trying to add, especially with it being another no cut and 50 instead of 70, and it's getting smaller as we go. Obviously, the easy strategy tactic, as a lot of people talk about, is just to leave salary and just go with that. Sure, makes perfect sense. In these events, you can get away with it more than anything because of that, and it'll get you more unique and all those factors. But also, I do think, it was already talked about today. I posted on Twitter, the 5Ks are back, right? So you've got Rogers, Kitayama, Hoagie, Power, and Nick Taylor, 55 to 5,900. You got 12-1 back, which is on Rory now after the great finish last week. So we get a little bit of a discount on Scotty, which we'll get there in a second. But I will say, with only 50 guys and to be able to make it all work, now it does seem like people will commit. I don't know, though, because like last week, balance worked out. So maybe people just stick with that. But I'm just saying, when you have to remember, last week there was still a lot of scoring available out there. We saw lots of stuff happening, eagles and hole-in-ones, like things like anything can happen. That's more variance. But my point is, we did see a lot more scoring last week, lower scores, etc. This week, if we see something similar to 2020 or even slightly better, to your point, they know it a little more, they played a little better, whatever. The point is, those position points then become a little bit more important. And you could see that if none of the 5K guys come through and the 6K, low 6K guys, it's not necessarily the same where they're outscoring their position. If they're not up the board, that's going to matter a lot more. You could have a bunch of guys at +2 that finish in the top 10. I was looking at it there for last time around. It was like, who was it? I was just looking at, Brendan Todd, you mentioned, Lanto Griffin, Mackenzie Hughes, all these guys in there, Brian Harmon, Sebastian Munoz shot a 70-75 with just a 67 and 69. And he's sitting 8th, and you get all those position points to go with it. That matters so much more on these tougher events. So I do think there's something to think about there when you look at the balance builds. I don't know if that'll happen or not and how it actually shakes out once we get to Wednesday. But I will say this, last week you saw it. There was really balanced ownership for the most part. Overall, yeah. I suspect we'll see that again. There's not too many guys that get, 1% owned or something like that. And there's not too many guys that get 35% owned or 40. Yeah. So we'll see. Smaller field, they can all boost somebody somewhere, but I just see that it's going to be pretty balanced across the board. Makes it a little bit more high variance for those looking for these leverage plays and spots. It's not necessarily guaranteed. You're going to have to look more at combinations and your overall roster construction than just this play over that play, for example.
I like that. I like the combination talk because, you're right. It's going to be, people are going to get ownership no matter what because it's 50 people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so to be able to differentiate, you're going to need to get a couple of them, that are going to be 10% owned, which would be probably on the very low end of the ownership spectrum when it comes down to total ownership for the week.
Yeah, I'm not sure where Spieth finished last week, but just a quick example on that. By the end of Wednesday night, you just knew Rory already was getting squeezed, which you could tell. And I posted in our Discord over at Chip and Nation. I was like, I don't even like Rory that much this week. Now he ended up doing better. I'm glad I got some of them, but I was saying I don't love it, but man, I can just see it now. I keep running stuff. He is getting squeezed on mass numbers of lineups. So that's easy to tell Rory in that spot. But then you could see certain combinations like Rory with 8K guys. If you went Rory with Homa and somebody, it just wasn't happening. And then Rory with Spieth, for example, was the two of the most squeezed guys up top that obviously can play well in a 70-man field with a no-cut event. You talked about Spieth's potential to have his wizardry. Rory just getting squeezed, period. So yeah, we'll talk about this week, but I definitely think that's something to look at when you're building out your lineups more than just I'll leave $200 on every lineup and I'm good. That's not true at all.
Well, let's start with these tiers. Let's go all the way up from Jordan all the way up to Rory. I mean, obviously, the person that's going to be squeezed, in my opinion, is going to be Scheffler. Do you agree with me on this?
Probably
Because
yeah. I think
Rory with his
like
Rory with his
Rahm or
performance last week.
Yep.
Rory with his performance last week in the domination of bombers that have littered the leaderboards at this event in any type of shape or form. And then you have Rahm, who won here in 2020 and came in 5th at the 2015 US Am. Now, is he gonna be able to squeeze enough even after a poor performance last week to get Scheffler as the lowest of these three?
I just see them all. Like, who knows what it will actually be. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying it's like, what if it's 25, 20, 20 or 25, 22, 18 or something? It's not
going to be that much.
And again, because there's options at the bottom that I think people are going to feel comfortable with when we get there, the Shanks, the Eric Coles, the Lee Hodges, some of those guys, I definitely think there's going to be ways that you see these guys fit in. So you do have to keep that in mind. Also, to that note, Kenny, one interesting roster construction, because we're up here. I feel so much better talking about it this way, this week, especially than like this guy, that guy, but it makes sense. I'm just saying, like, there isn't a possibility at a course like this, when you get tough courses like this, the runaway is more possible than anywhere else. Like where you get like a Rahm Scotty take off versus the rest. It can happen. It's more likely. It could end up being in a balanced version. I'm not saying it has to be stars and scrubs for this. I'm just saying you can see where two guys just do their job or two or three guys get out ahead of it. And yes, you could say that gets boring on Sunday, but sometimes it's interesting. Go back to the Open where Phil and Stenson ran away with it at a very tough Troon that year, which I believe we're going to Troon next year. I'm excited about it. I like that course. That year was fun, the wind, all that stuff, but just in general, off topic, but still, like, at least there was two guys battling. It wasn't a runway, one guy. There was two guys battling. You knew it was those two. Whoever makes a mistake first became like match play, but still made for some battle down the stretch. We've seen it at the Memorial happen in the past, but this is another course, very fitting that the Memorial I find is very similar, like a comp course that people would go to, thinking of these names of the guys that have won it, the Rahms, the Cantlays, those types of players. I just think in general, this is a spot you could see it. And if you can find a way to work with a couple of these guys up top, whether it's the California guys again, Cantlay, Xander, and do them and then drop down. I'm just saying, I think you can go two guys up top here on this type of setup this week.
Yeah, especially with the 5K and sort of what we're doing. And my first cash game cornerstone is going to be Victor Hovland here at 10,300. I thought about Rory, I thought about Rahm, but to save the amount, I want three studs that I think can win this event in the top of my lineup. And that's the way I'm going. I'm going super stars and scrubs this week. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Victor Hovland. I do like Rory. Let's sort of take away from the tiers real quick and let's talk about Rory McIlroy. So I went on Twitter and talked about, like, why do people like Rory so much? Like, I've never been a Rory fan, and I'll be honest with you, the more I thought about this, the reason I do not like Rory is the Ryder Cup. I don't like any European golfers that have dominated us from 1991 to 2018. Any golfers on those teams, I just can't get behind. Like the younger guys, like the Hovlands and the Rahms and stuff like that, who really haven't been crushing us every year in and year out for 30 years. Because they don't bother me as much. But the Ryder Cup, in my opinion, in my personal life, is the greatest sporting event there is. I love it more than the Super Bowl. I love it more than watching my Commanders or the Redskins or whatever the fuck you want to call them play. More than the Caps. The only thing equivalent would be when the Caps won the Stanley Cup. At least in my adulthood, the Redskins won in '92, and I do remember that vividly. But I was 11 years old, 12 years old. So I basically live and die with the Ryder Cup every year, rooting for America to do their thing, and it's just been so disappointing for 30 years. We never winning over there and always getting our ass whooped. So I just ingrained this hatred towards these European players because they whoop our asses, and this is my event. This is the one that I love. And so what happens to me is I end up just making any type of excuse to hate on Rory. That's just the way it is. But I'll find whatever the fuck I can find. But like, hey, fuck that dude, right? And so the funny thing is, so when I put it out there on Twitter, all the Rory fans, super articulate, right? They're out there talking about like he's so well spoken, he speaks his mind, he's a great player, blah blah blah. Very very well spoken, well thought out answers. Because I asked, like, why do people like Rory McIlroy? And then, all the anti-Rory guys like, fuck that bitch, that whiny ass pussy. Like, those are the responses from like the anti-Rory crowd, right? And I'm like, so I'm looking at these comments and I'm like, man, this is my association. Like I don't like Rory, and all these people who don't like Rory, like, what does that say about me, right? What does that say about me when all these people going, fuck that bitch, that whiny ass bitch? And those are the answers that I got for anti-Rory. So it sort of made me think a little bit. I'm like, maybe I am on the wrong side of this. I don't know. But I just thought it was funny. And the main thing for me, with Rory is the Ryder Cup, but I can make excuses. I mean, Tambo talked about a tweet I don't even remember tweeting from like 4 years ago. If you still have it, you can retweet it, Tambo, where I like laid out like every single reason I hated Rory McIlroy. And really, in the bottom, in the very end of things, it's just because of the Ryder Cup, and I'm just making excuses to hate him more. That's it. Tambo, what are your takes on Rory? I mean, do you have a favorite player on tour? And do you have players you hate on tour, or is it just strictly gambling and DFS related for you?
It's usually DFS related. There's guys that like my guys that I always play. Like a couple of them went out this week. RIP Steven Yeager and Nick Hardy, guys that I just like and play every week. I think they're good stuff. Sung Jae, obviously a big time Sung Jae truther. I like his game quite a bit. But my guy, I told you this, I've said it publicly on the show before, and it's not why I'm sticking up for him for the Ryder Cup battle, but I was a Ricky Fowler fan forever, and then I publicly came on this show and said I'm switching gears to Justin Thomas before he even won his first major. I really liked his game. He was an up and comer. I believed in him, his talent, everything was solid. I've stuck with him. I like my guy JT. It's a bad season. He's struggling hard. I get it, but don't just want to flip flop all the time. I really do like JT. I like his game. The Rory thing, just to go back to it, is separate. It's funny. The thing you laid out about 3 or 4 years ago was when Bryson was, crying on the range and everything like that. And you were like, I'm not sure why Bryson's getting all this hate. You said, like, why don't people hate on Rory? Like, you were still trying to sway the crowd back then to hate Rory. You're like, why don't you hate Rory? And your list was like, he did this before. He didn't shake hands after this. He whined about this. He's not cherishing the Ryder Cup when it's like a team event that you get picked for, and you earn this, or you earn this opportunity not to get picked for. You earn this opportunity, blah, 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 like things like that. So you've always kind of been against him a little bit, but I think you just made the point why. The one thing is, he gets it, man, because of the spotlight and all that he's in. Like, we've talked about this in the past about him not winning a major, even though he's been so close so many times. He just gets shit on because he doesn't close the deal on it. But the guy has tried his first way. Like, he came out as this kid, cocky a little bit, like trying to do his thing. And he was doing his thing, mind you. So it was good. Then he had to go through like a humble period of not the majors, but still doing it. He's always been good. We know Rory. He's top talent of all time, one of them. But I'm saying, like, he's now went in this transition this last 2 years, I guess since maybe since COVID, I'll say, but like where he finally started speaking his mind and he started saying things that I don't know. Again, I don't know who he was speaking to, if it was for the public or it was just he's transitioned more and now this is who he is. But a lot of the stuff was very friendly to like how it would be perceived by the general public. Like, remember him in tears after speaking of Ryder Cup, after the Ryder Cup, saying, now I get it. Now I understand it. Like he knew that he talked shit on this before and acted like it ain't that real. It ain't that special. I'm about what the game of golf is about and the titles and the legendary stuff and all that and the history. But that's part of it. And then he got it. And then there was like the funny clip with JT that time where he's talking about getting Domino's pizza. He's just a relatable dude. I'm not sure if you saw it. It was funny. He's like, man, you know what we've been craving lately? Some Domino's pizza. And JT just laughs at him. It's like a cool clip. And then you see the stuff about Liv, where he stepped up for the tour. Now, obviously got slapped in the face a little bit on that. We're still waiting to see how that plays out. But the point being, after the Open, he was open about losing to Cam Smith and not having it down the stretch. And then they say they saw him in tears in his wife's arms getting into the car and heading out. Like it just was too much. He was overwhelmed, but he did his speech and blah, blah, blah. So he became really relatable, in my opinion, which is why people are like, okay, but he speaks his mind. You and I both had said this though, when Rom got on the mic, we kind of liked that better. And I don't know if it was like a mini Rory hatred. It was just like, I think Rom speaks it better. And it almost made Rory's stuff seem a little bit fake, even though it's probably not. I'm just saying because Rom said it and you just knew that was Rom saying it. Maybe it's just Rom's demeanor, but it made it feel like Rory's shit was fake and was phony, where you're like, oh, well, maybe Rory just said that because this. Probably not, but I'm just saying it's whatever the way it worked out. That is how it felt. And a lot of people felt that way too, by the way. A lot of people said Rory greater than Rom on the microphone and on the course. People said, or with the jokes. But I don't know. That was the other take I had.
The funny thing is, what he reminds me is of Phil when he was younger. And of course, that's sort of where the whole thing situated, where Rory talks shit about Phil, about, he can, go ahead and not bet on the Ryder Cup now after Phil's,
Well, no, he can bet on it now because he's not in it.
Because he's not on the team. Like, if they were boys and he said that, yeah, I could take that as a joke. But the thing about it is they're not friends anymore, right? So obviously it was a dig at Phil. And now Phil, a lot of people think Phil deserves a dig, and I understand why. Because of leaving, doing whatever you think about Liv. Now, but the thing about it is, like, in the history of golf, that's a no-no, right? I mean, like, have you ever heard of another golfer talking shit about another pro golfer that's outside of like rules violations and team competitions? Like, like, it just doesn't happen, right? And so everyone was like loving it, and I was like, I don't get the love here. Like, well, this is not what like golf people do, like, ever. Like, they never talk shit about other golfers. Now, granted, that could be why there aren't that many fans, and as many fans as there could be about golf, and people want more people to speak out and talk shit. I mean, like, the biggest bump we had of golf popularity outside of COVID, because it was the only thing that was on, was probably the Bryson Koepka shit, right?
I was just gonna say, I didn't want to cut you off, but I want to interject quickly, because I do think that's the key factor. You just said it. What do golf players do? Stand by history and etiquette, and that's why Lucas Glover's out there, swamp ass, because there's no shorts on the PGA Tour. Now, Liv has, I get the joke and back, but still, the point being, that's just another side joke. But the main thing is, you said it, when people had the Brooks versus Bryson thing, that's why people liked it. The new age sports fan, or if you're trying to get the new age sports fan involved, needs some drama. That's why we've said it all season about the Liv thing. It's not about, do we like Liv, love Liv, care about it, anything. There is no secret. Guys like Poulter, Reed, Bryson, Pat Perez, even like some of these other dudes, that even DJ, like even DJ has no personality that is like a star personality. It's just, that's part of the shtick. And it's like, man, it's crazy that all the personalities are there, versus you can have, like, Patrick Cantlay couldn't even smile yesterday, and the dude's in a chance to win the damn thing. There's nothing to smile about when you go in the water on the first playoff hole, but before that, there's no emotion. Scotty Scheffler wins. It just doesn't get people fired up like some of these other guys. That's why we like Rom. I don't care what anyone says. I love Rom's game because Rom is fired up and Rom takes it seriously. Hatton goes a little bit too much over the edge, again, where maybe it's like Rom's demeanor and it's so legit, makes you think the other one isn't, even though Hatton's is pretty truthful. Like, he's always swearing and cursing and giving the finger to the hole. But the point being, it's like you said it, there's only so many of these actual personalities, and people want these battles. They want this conversation. And to your point, the Phil Rory thing, like, that's a full-on dig. When Tiger says to JT, "Oh, you should come to the champions dinner tomorrow." Oh, wait, you can't. You're not a champion.
They're boys.
That's a funny joke. Yeah, that's them messing around and they laugh about it. That's not like no one sees it as that way.
Rory was definitely digging.
But the Rory thing, like you said, and why I think you brought up the tweet, not to keep it going, but like the forced factor, there is a forced factor, because even the Netflix series, "Fuck you, Phil." Like, why'd you have to say, like, who cared? Like, I get it. And it's a good clip for the Netflix documentary to be like, oh, Rory, it's not that serious though. Like, I wasn't like, oh shit, Rory called out Phil. It sounded so fake and forced, and like, oh yes, we get it. It's you versus Liv. Like, again, I'm not sticking up for the other. I don't care. I just think, like you said, it can feel forced when Rory does stuff, even if he is the nicest guy and an incredible human. Clearly,
and the funny thing is, that's why I didn't like Phil for 30 years. Because everything he said just seemed like it was scripted for the mic. And like, I know people believe Rory, but sometimes I don't. Like, I feel like it's scripted shit.
Funny, they have a very similar career trajectory too. Remember when we talked about, like, Kyle Porter brought the stats out from Data Golf on the last thing, when everyone's like, Rory's sucks again, Rory's a piece of shit. And they're like, no, Rory's just not Tiger. So, figure that out. Get that in your mind straight. He is way more like a Phil career trajectory. Mind you, he got things sooner and faster and all. I get that. But the path he's on is very Phil-esque, and they're almost like that. And maybe, I don't know, maybe that bothers him now that he's seen stuff like that, but he's not Tiger. Nobody is. You're just gonna have to deal with it. There's no other Tiger Woods on tour.
And I'll be honest, like I said, the reason I hate him is because of the Ryder Cup, and I just find excuses to hate him more. That's it. They're just excuses. That's just what it comes down to for me. All right, so let's move on. So I got Hovland as my first cash game cornerstone. I like Rory. I'm going to play Rory. When it comes to DFS and when it comes to gambling, you just cut the biases off. My ass is playing Rory. Good week last week. I'm going to play him. I'm going to go Rory Rahm as my 2 GBP plays, and I'm going to play Hovland and Cass. Let's move on to the 9K range. I like the 9K range a lot. That's why I think I'm only going to be playing Rory and Rahm up top and basically skipping everybody else except Hovland and Cash. Because I like Morikawa. Morikawa is my second cash game cornerstone. Like I said, I'm going with studs. He finished second here in the 2018 Illini Invitational. One of the two. He finished second. Either that or the whatever I said in the freaking course preview. I don't even remember anymore. But he has played well here in the past. He's really good on difficult courses. I'm going to go back to Morikawa. I feel like, he can go in and do his thing and be in contention at a course like this, especially with how accurate he is off the tee and how good his iron play is, especially from distance. My third cash game cornerstone, we're going to go ahead and stick here. It's going to be Homa. Homa impressed the fuck out of me last week. He was my fade of the week last week because, like I said in the past, don't play Homa on Homa courses, fade Homa on non-Homa courses. It's worked out pretty fucking well the whole year. Now, last week, he played that event 6 times, never finished better than 42nd. And he comes out there and he's in contention. Yeah, he sort of faded a little bit at the end. In contention, you're trying for the win on a Sunday. That impressed me. And of course, he loves these, parkland type, traditional, classic, golf courses, which Olympia Fields is. So I think just the way he's playing and the way it fits, I really like him. I think he has a chance to win the event. I wouldn't be shocked. He's won like four or 5 times in the last couple of years. The win equity is there for Homa. So I'm going to go ahead and use him as my third cash game cornerstone. Now, the popular guy, I think, is going to be Hideki Matsuyama. With his 65 on Sunday at TPC Southwind and his top 3 finish, whatever he finished in the 2020 BMW Championship. Now, the thing is, he was top 15 in driving distance at that time in that tournament. He has lost a lot of his game off the tee since his last appearance at the BMW Championship. It's become almost as weak as his putting. Maybe not. It's getting close to being as weak as his putting. He has not been great off the tee. He's lost strokes off the tee in, I think, 5 of his last 9 events. And this is a very, very heavy strokes gain off the tee course. He will be a fade for me. So that's where I'm going with that. And I know he's popular. So I'm going to go ahead and fade him. Who do you like in this range? I mean, and if I'm going to play for GPPs, I like Hatton a lot. I think Floplag, not playing well. He plays well on difficult courses. That's sort of his thing. We've seen him contend. What did he runner up at Honda? One of the tougher courses out there. He didn't play well last week, but just looking over all of the stuff, the par 4 scoring, he's the best in the field. One of the best in long par 4 efficiency from like 450 to I'm sorry, hold on. I guess yes, 450 to 500 yards, right? One of the top 5 in bogey avoidance, still in the top 15 in driving distance on this. I really like Hatton to bounce back, maybe at a slightly depressed ownership this week. Tambo, who do you like?
I don't think he's going to be depressed. I think he's going to be right there, suppressed, whatever you want to call it. But I just think in general, I actually bet Decky. So I guess your only take is that
you know what? Here's the thing. He was my first bet this morning. And then when I did my research and looked over it more, I cashed out. So, if you've noticed on my Twitter feed, the last 3 weeks, I've been doing this thing where I have my last 3 guys out of my player pool. Like I make my player, I have my pool, try and make my lineups, and then if the leverage over the projected ownership isn't good enough, I have to get rid of people, right? And so I've been doing my last three out the last 3 weeks. 3 weeks ago, Lee Hodges won. 2 weeks ago, I think it was Yeager. I think he finished 5th. Last week, Lucas Glover, he won. So it's been bad for me, but hopefully it's been good for you.
We will be patiently awaiting that tweet.
Yeah,
if you don't follow Kenny at KendoVT, get that tweet on Wednesday evenings. It's been a printer right now for that.
You've been making money if you've been doing that.
But
so,
I
haven't been making money, but you have. I
don't care as much about this Bomber thing as what everyone will make it out to be, and I get it.
I don't care about the Bomber thing either, Tambo. It's just the fact that he sucked with his driver.
Yeah, I just don't. Again, too much else is that he's good at, and he looked fine to me, and looked fine on Sunday. Like I'm really very comfortable with him. Actually, both cases here. I actually think too when you've got Homa, Fleetwood, Kawa below him, you got Glover, Fowler, Sungjae coming off a good one, and Hatton. There's just too many guys. Again, they'll all get spaced out, but I'm saying I don't see Decky being like the most popular in this range. So for both DFS and betting, I was fine. 30-1 is the number I got him at.
I had 33.
There you go, 33. So like, yeah, I think that was fine to me. Like again. Would you want a better number? Obviously, but at the same time, I'm okay with it. So that's of note. One thing I just can see this happening. Sometimes I just get these gut feelings, Kenny, and I just feel like this is the one, man. Fleetwood wins, and it's Fleetwood finally gets a win, albeit a reduced field PGA Tour win in a playoff event with only 50 guys. But man, he's been playing good golf. It still sets up well for him. Everything he does with his game right now, tee to green, approach, bogey avoid, like it's just everything setting up well. He's playing too good to not close one, and it would only make perfect sense to me to see him get the job done, finally get that PGA Tour win, but it be a 50-man field. But then it still gets boosted up because it's still worth so many points, and it's the playoffs and all that. But I mean, he's playing too. I'm just going to stick with the guys that are playing well, Kenny. It's, for me, it's like Kawa, Fleetwood, Hatton, and then like the other guys, my guys always like Fowler. Like this is the range. Why I said to you at the top of the show, like I love the guys up top, but if I can find some balanced builds like this is where I see you can get like 4 of these guys in the top 10 with a winner. Like I just see it starting here. And I'm not saying to put all 4 of them in your line. I'm saying this is why I feel good about this range. Maybe others will start to feel that as the week goes on and less comfortable with the guys down below. So in large field tournaments, maybe you put the flip on and build your sets out and get some of these lineups with, like I said, maybe Cantlay X, skip all these guys in the 9K range that will be popular. I like that build as something different, as a way to be different this week. I'm just saying if we're talking by range, which we always do, I got to mention the guys that I like. And for me, those stand out. If Glover does it again, good for Glover. I get the numbers still line up. He should continue it. The putter's hot. It's just, man, it's tough when there's just so many other guys. And again, I know people will like that because he may be the guy that comes in at 10%. But if you think he's overachieved, and I do, then I still don't give him the points. Even if you are getting that bit of an ownership break, I still can't give him the juice on the other side to say he's the talent level at 9,100 in a range of Fleetwood, Hatton, Decky, Fowler, Homa, Connors, like just so many guys, man. It's just really tough. Mind you, he's won the last 2 weeks, so people say whatever, but that's just my take. Keep it going.
AK range. Not the biggest fan. I mean, there's some guys I like here. The one guy that's interesting to me is Jason Day. Just really good around the green. You're going to need it. You're going to miss greens here. Like I said, 58% green and regulation percentage here in 2020. Bogey avoidance, one of the best in the field. I think he's second. One of the better par 4 scores in this field. I think he's 9th or 8th in strokes gained par 4 scoring. In strokes gained par 4. And so I don't know how popular it would be. I mean, I don't think he'll be very popular, but he's long enough. His ball flight's extremely high, which could be good at a course like this, where you're going to have to go with some mid to long irons out there, and who knows how firm these greens are going to be. Like the first couple of days that were in 2020, they were firm as fuck. So I sort of like him as like a one of those leverage type GPP plays, but we'll see how much ownership he really steams up. And I like Russell Henley. If you're going to go with a plotter down here, Henley and Harmon sort of makes sense because they hit so many fairways. And again, we saw it at the Open Championship where Harmon was hitting his driver when everyone else was hitting 3-iron and stuff like that. Now everyone's going to be hitting their driver here, so it's a little bit less of an advantage. But he hits a lot of fairways with the driver. Still can pound it out there 290 to 300 yards and hit a ton of fairways. So both those guys are interesting to me down here. Who do you like in the AK range, Tambo?
Yeah, I do think one other interesting build, I was just looking at it, is it kind of doesn't really land in this range. Is if you go with if you So for me, Kenny, it's everything we just talked about. Like when you go Kawa, Fleetwood, Homa, Decky, Sungjae, Fowler, Glover, Hatton, that whole 9K range, I don't care who your guy is. There is spread out ownership there, but it's like 15 to 20% on all of them is what it feels like early on. So they're all getting enough love that if you could just make a build where you use one guy above them or two of them and drop down, like I'd said, but if you even just use one and then can find your guys in this range, like Connors, Jason Day, who you mentioned, and then there's the other guys, like you know, the Henleys, the Harmons, the Finaus. I'm not trying to name everyone. I'm trying to say the build style. Again, talking roster construction in a no-cut event. Another way to find leverage is to do it through roster construction and not just through a low-owned play. And what I mean by that is, like, Wyndham Clark burned everybody last week, and I just said it, that I'm not as high on this bomber thing as everybody. In a 50-man field, guess what? A lot of these guys bomb it. So what's going to happen? You already know. For Sunday, it's, Tambo said that wasn't really about bombers. Clearly it is. There's a shitload of bombers in this field, or that you could classify as bombers. So I don't want that to get misconstrued, and be clear on that. But what I'm saying is, if you were wanting to go full in on that narrative and say to add to the extra with a guy like Clark, well, Clark already pops. Everyone loved him last week. And now you go look at the stats here. Again, totally different course, but solid tee to green, solid on approach, got the driving distance, but he also has the scrambling, the bogey avoidance, the strokes game putting. Like he can do it all. He could still fit back in here at 8,800. So you got a guy up top, Wyndham Clark, as your second guy in. Go with your Jason Day call and your Henley call, and now fill it out. That's an interesting build, that you're skipping all those 9K guys. You're making your stand on your guy up top. And now you got to put 3 8K guys in that I just think, again, not many people are going to build like that. So I definitely think that's a way you could get different this week as well. For guys in here that I like, I guess, you know, Connors, Clark, Day, Finau, Henley. And then what do you do with Cameron Young, who we just talked about as well? Like, I mean, doesn't he feel like he still has to prove something, even if Fred Couples did say that? It's whether he does or not, I don't know. But just going back out here, also.
Well, here's the thing. Cam's been pretty good in majors, at least last year. This is a major type course, maybe. I mean, I haven't clicked for now. He's not one of my favorites, but I haven't clicked.
What about this? I can't remember if this is true or not, but didn't Webb Simpson win a major here?
No, Jim Furyk.
Yeah, Jim Furyk. Yeah. What was the didn't we compare Webb at one of these courses before? I thought it was Olympia Fields for some reason, but I was thinking of the Paul Tesori connection as well, but I can't remember what it was. It wasn't what I just said. I was just trying to remember what it was, but all right, fine. I was trying to look for a different angle. One more narrative in, Kenny. You know, I'm always looking for something, but I don't have it. So keep it going. Let's go into this next range. I just thought Cameron Young would be the other interesting one in here, but like Sam Burns, flop leg is there too. These aren't my favorite guys versus the other ones around them. I did bet Cam Young. He was at 50 this morning. First thing, everybody hopped on, and then he dropped to 40. So what else do you got in here? Anybody else? If not, go into the 7K range.
Yeah, 7K range. I like Cam Davis. He's been playing really good golf. He's been able to make it into the top 70 and top 50 the last 2 weeks. You know, he's long off the tee. He's well above average with his longer irons. I do like Cam Davis, and I like the guys sort of in the bottom range here. I'm going to go back to Taylor Moore. I don't know if people will after sort of his implosion on Sunday, but he sort of got the ship right towards the end of the round after just, you know, virtually imploding on the front nine. You know, he's long off the tee, can putt his ass off when he wants to. So I think I can go back to him no problem this week. And I like Thigala, you know, 4 rounds in the 60s last week. You know, when it comes down to it, you know, again, it's going to be length and putting for him, you know, off the tee, and, you know, above average with his mid irons. And, you know, both him and Cam Davis sneakily good around the greens. So I like those 3 guys in the 7K range, Tam.
Yeah, and you know what it was? So people know how my brain works. I don't just like make up shit on the fly. I just remembered it quickly. Olympic Fields was where he won his major. Webb Simpson won at Olympic Club. Olympic Club.
Oh, okay. I was like,
I know I'm mixing them both. Olympic Club in 2012, he won the U.S. Open there, and we talked about that for something else. I forget what else we played there, and we went back to it, and maybe I can't remember what it was there either. But we did talk about that before. Olympic Fields or Olympic Park being down. The Olympic Club, being down the street from one of the events with Webb Simpson. So I was thinking of that, but obviously just the Olymp got me excited there. But either way, we can move on. 7K range, I like Justin Rose after the battle back last week. I like Siwoo Kim, Benny Ann. I think those are still good guys that you can go back and play here. Emiliano Grillo stands out. If you want to go to Taylor Moore, who you just said, Keegan Bradley, any of these guys you can fit in. The ones my favorites are probably Bradley, Siwoo, Cam Davis, and then maybe Grillo. I like Grillo at 7,400 as well. Probably those four would be the guys that stand out most for me.
All right, 6K, 5K range. I'm going to go with my final cash game corner, so I'm just going to bottom of the barrel. Basically, I have a punt play this week. I'm going 3 studs and a punt, and then I still leaves me almost $15,000 to make my line. And my final guy is going to be Kitayama. 17 birdies last week, only 5 bogeys. The issue he had is he had 5 doubles that sort of kept him out of here. Now, the thing about this course, not as much water. Balls don't go, and there's still about 7-8 holes of water, but you don't see as many balls in the water like TPC Southwind, which is like the most on tour in the last 20 years. So you're not going to see that. You are going to see a ton of bogeys. Bogeys you'll see. But you're not going to see, too many doubles and triples and stuff like that. So if Kitayama can go out there and just get enough birdies, he has the length and he has the good long iron play. Yeah, so he actually has those 2 things going for him. And then you make a couple of putts. Just get me just be average for me when it comes to points, right? Because I got the 3 studs I got up top, and those are the ones that I really want to really ride my coattails on in cash. Plus, I have $15,000, and there's plenty of good options in the 7K range to fill out the other 2 spots. So that's how I'm going with my cash game strategy this week. My cash game cornerstones this week are going to be, of course, it's going to be Hovland at 10,300. Morikawa at 9,800, and Homa 9,500, and Kitayama at 5,600. Other guys I do like in this lower range. I mean, Svensson and Shank are going to be popular. Eric Cole has basically been a birdie machine. Now, granted, it's been at easier courses the last 5 or 6 weeks, but the man has just been making a shit ton of birdies. Now, at some point, is he going to collapse and die from playing 800 weeks in a row? Maybe, but it might not be this week. So those are some guys that I'm thinking of down here. I think I'm going to play the popular guys. I don't see a problem with it because, I mean, you're sort of reaching the bottom of the barrel here. It's tough to try and figure out a couple of guys. Brendan Todd, he finished 12th here before. He's someone to look at. He's been playing decent golf here recently without a doubt. He's definitely there. Who do you like in this range?
Yeah, I think some of the guys I know, like Chris Kirk, Lee Hodges, whoever is going to be popular. I'm thinking Shank, Cole, and then maybe, Patrick Rogers, because he's literally bottom of the barrel and people just like playing him still. But I don't see anybody getting that crazy of ownership down here. We'll have to see how it shakes out completely. But some of the guys you go back to, I guess Denny at 6,700 would be interesting. And then I don't know if Svensson gets it or not, because when you have Shank, Cole, Hodges, Kirk, maybe he gets overlooked, and I kind of like him always. But Nick Taylor was the guy I played last week, and even Seamus Power. So for me, probably the favorites would be like Shank, Cole, Kirk, and then maybe Seamus Power and McCarthy as the second tier there for just to name 5 of the 12 or 15 down here. So I think that's kind of where it stands for me, at least on an early look, Kenny, for me, down in this 5 and 6K range.
All right, that sounds good. One and done last week. I still have Rom.
Oh,
I'm not going to win.
Use them.
Are you in any of them?
I'm in 355th place. I would need a miracle, but I'll take whatever cash I can get. I want to make money. So I'm debating between Sam Burns, who's really low owned that you can use him, or Justin Rose. But Justin Rose has more ownership available still. So I don't know. I don't think it matters, but I'm just trying to make cash, but probably use Sam Burns, just hope for the best.
I got 2 bets so far. I'm going to add one more as the week goes on. But right now, I got Cam Davis 45-1 with 8 places each way, and I got Adam Schenk 100-1, 8 places each way. I'm either going to add Rory, Rahm, or Hovland. I don't know who yet.
All right. I got 3 bets. I've got Hideki 30, Finau 40, Young 50.
There you go.
Solid. Finau I didn't talk a lot about earlier, but another guy, just going back to it, like I said, he's got to do something, and he's capable of doing something. I believe he came 5th here. Yeah, he came 5th here. And even still, look, not the same course, I get it, but his BMW Championship history of just being able to show up in this event, 7th, 8th, 4th, 5th, 15th, 20. I mean, it's solid. He sets up, and then lastly, you go look at the stats. He's 8,400 or 8,300, sorry. Over the last 50 rounds, he's top 20 in pretty much everything, top 10 or 11 in some of the bigger ones like tee to green approach, top 20 and off the tee distance, solid around the greens, not a lot of bogeys made. Like he just sets up well. Again, his price, 8,300. He's below the average, but for a bet at 40, I got no problem. I wouldn't be shocked if he came out and did something. So, I mean, he's got to do something. Now. So 40-1, I like that one.
All right. Well, that sounds good. You can find me on Twitter at KendoVT. Find my article every week on gupscorner.com. Use promo code Kenny. Save yourself 30% on a membership to Gups Corner.
Find me on Twitter at ToeTagAndTambo. Last week of the Golf Tidbits. I talked about this last week, so not doing it for a 30-man event next week. I mean, we're doing this show next week, but it's 30 guys. We're probably going to spend more time talking about why Kenny hates Rory or who knows.
No, it's going to be Liv. It's going to be Phil and Liv. And that's what we're going to be talking. I'm kidding.
Killing our ratings early.
I don't know what we're going to talk about next week.
Yeah. Well, what's the old joke? We know only 8 people watch this show. Now we're going to go down to 7. So we'll see. But check that out. Follow me on Twitter at ToeTagAndTambo. That stuff will be up. And then a lot going on right now. I use this pod to talk about it for sure. ShipItNation.com. Myself, Hoop, got the site going full force. NFL is just around the corner. We did a launch show on the Ship It Nation YouTube. It breaks down everything we're going to have for this upcoming season. But we also recorded, for those that always ask me about my process and getting better at the actual game and not just picks and plays, I talk a lot about this. Hoop and I recorded. It took us a lot longer, but it's a 4-hour course breaking down NFL DFS process. We talked about everything from bankroll management, contest selection, roster construction, live finals and satellites, winning Millie Makers. Hoop reviews his Millie Maker winning lineup. I review live finals. We break down Showdown, everything you could possibly want. When you buy any membership right now, this ends in the next, 3.5 weeks? If you sign up now for monthly, the 6 months, or the annual package to shipitnation.com, you get this course included for free in your membership. You have full access to it to get ready for the upcoming NFL DFS season. It's going to be a good one at shipitnation.com.
All right, you should sign up. But 4 hours? Ain't nobody got time for that shit. God damn, dog.
You put in 1 hour a week, you can do it, but there's people that have binged it already. We got testimonials already coming in. People love that stuff. You'd be surprised. Everyone talks about, we're going to tell you how to be a better player, but then they'll never sit down and actually do it and break it down for you where it's completely segmented on what we do. And we've had a lot of success playing that game. Hoop won the Millie Maker last year. I went to both live finals. I won like 2 showdown slates for 40 and 60K. I won a bunch of King of the Beach seats and came 6th there for 40K. Like it was just an amazing season last year. And that was before NBA, which you also get when you sign up. And NBA is just around the corner in October as well. So lots going on at shipitnation.com.
All right. That sounds good. Should be a fun week on a tough course. Let there be carnage. Let's win some motherfucking money. Degeneration.
I've been getting dirty money, Jordan Belfort. Stacking penny stocks while I'm flipping these birds. Sipping on Ciroc, trip 'em up with the words. I done popped the Molly and I think it's be my third.